Well then, here's a video I knew I'd be making, but not so soon or in this fashion. Wendy's rework has gone and gotten a rework, everyone. And the last time Clay did something like this, Jesus Goose was born. So I'm excited to see what changes await. But first, perhaps, we should mention some of what hasn't. The cisterns still upgrade Abby in half a day and provide a plus 25 Sandy aura, which is absolutely marvelous. Abby still sits at 600 health total when fully upgraded, mind you, and Abigail's flower remains the same craft, yet new craft, if you know what I mean. Oh, and of course, the most important thing that hasn't changed, Abby still dances with us. But here's the deal, folks. Abigail's damage no longer corresponds to Wendy's health, and as you can see, Abby sits at but 14 damage initially, down from the 20 damage she had in her first rework. And even on the brink of death, you will have to expect the very same thing, as a glass cannon summoner is now no longer on the table. So then, how does damage work? Well, my friends, looks like we have returned to the Abigail of old, actually, as now time of day impacts her overall damage as it once did. 14 during the day, which is actually higher than OG Abigail, mind you. 23 damage come dusk, which again is up from the pre-first rework Abigail. And finally 36 damage under the cover of night, which is actually lower than the original 40 damage she dealt prior to her reworks. And that part seems odd, and I really don't know why they did it. However, other mechanics are at play that somewhat even things out. Oh, and we can still use Abigail as a light source in said darkness, by the way. And you're gonna notice a couple things in this clip here. One, Abigail's damage distribution when fighting a single target versus hordes is now no longer a thing. So expect the same damage to be dealt to all mobs as it used to be. And two, it's dusk, and yet she is dealing 25 damage and not 23 damage like she's supposed to be. And three, notice these petals on mobs getting hit? They are what will be increasing both Abigail's and the rest of the world's damage from now on. Allow me to explain. These ghostly petals, as Clay calls them, now add a damage multiplier to anything they are on, and it appears to apply to all forms of combat damage, but works best for Wendy players. The base multiplier is 1.1 times for everything besides Wendy, because she benefits from a 1.4 times multiplier. However, know this, it technically only comes out to 1.05 times multiplier for Wendy players, because Wendy players have lower base damage than most other survivors anyways. But in lamest terms, all survivors can benefit from this applied multiplier, but Wendy and Abigail work best together. Fair enough? And as it should be. But be mindful, the effect only lasts for 2 seconds, which is absolutely atrocious. But now, the tonics and Wendy's ecto-herbology. We'll cover these specifics for those that have changed, but a couple basic notes are as follows. All elixirs now, except the spectral cure-all, last for an entire day, which is great in some cases, but makes literally no sense in others. Pretty much every crafting recipe has received some tweaks as to how many morning glories they actually need, and finally, one has gone and gotten a complete name/function change. So, let's discuss. As said, the spectral cure-all does not last a full day, but instead will last for 30 seconds while doing exactly as it did before, adding an additional 20 health per second gain to Abigail's pre-existing 1 health per second gain. Simple enough. Clay has gone and somewhat buffed both the Unyielding Drought and Distilled Vengeance. However, the best part may just be that they even told us what they ever did and do now in the first place. Abigail apparently had a built-in shield with the first rework that would activate whenever she would be hit, and I guess it was negligible because we didn't even notice it. And to be honest, perhaps still don't. But Unyielding Drought will supposedly double the duration of said shield, which is somewhat okay against hordes, but still absolutely garbage against single targets, because it only lasts for half a second without an Unyielding Drought equipped. Which then, by the way, only makes it last a whopping 1 second. Distilled Vengeance, on the other hand, also doubles our shield duration to the incredible 1 second. However, it will also apply a bit of knockback damage to whatever strikes the shield in that time. Not much else to it really, but it would be way more interesting if the shield just lasted longer. Another that can be just outright ignored in normal gameplay, but still needs a brief mention here, Vigor Mortis can be haunted by ghost players to grant a 3-second speed boost. A whopping 3 seconds, people. So, moving on. Cause this is where the real fun begins. Nightshade Nostrum. It has replaced the Choleric Tonic as an elixir, but has remained a damage modifier of sorts. Oh, and the crafting recipe still uses bee stingers too, which is always welcomed. The Nightshade Nostrum will last for a full day, and gives Abigail the ability to deal nighttime levels of damage both at dusk or in the wee hours of the morning. Beautiful, and honestly one of the only things Clay has gotten right when it comes to these ecto-herbology potions. However, Clay did get Pip Spooks right, though they still went and got a tweak. The sad little guys will still be looking for assistance to locate their lost items, yes, but now these lost items will not spawn very far away from the Pip Spooks' graves, and even these subsequent trinkets will be practically feet away from each other. I kinda liked going on some long journeys with some lost souls, but now it's just a brief walk really. Oh, and they'll still grant numerous morning glories after you locate 3 to 4 lost items though, and that is lovely. Few last notes here. Wendy continues to no longer be a threat to ghosts and vice versa, and ghosts will not drain Wendy's sanity at all. Perfect. Although perhaps one extra layer of this ghastly relationship should have been still explored, like being able to befriend them shortly perhaps, but what have you. Hopefully Clay has fixed their targeting of Wartox, Weber, and the like, but I can confirm that Abby is back to targeting butterflies after being able to initially getting that taken away from her for a couple days for whatever reason, and then getting it right back here. Make up your mind, Clay, because I can also see now that birds are no longer a target option either. She wasn't catching them anyways, but still. A good note, know that you can always choose to apply the elixirs to Abigail's flower instead of Abigail herself, which could really make things easier on ya. Do note though, that it is still only one elixir allowed at one time. We can still heal Abigail ourselves with spider glands and or healing salves if some ecto-herbology items are out of our reach, which is great to hear. And finally, we will still lose 30 sanity when our sister falls, but the worst part may still be what Wendy actually says when such a thing happens. And on the contrary, we will gain 15 sanity for calling her back to us. Marvelous. Oh, and remember that Abby reverts back to level 1 spirit every time she dies. And there you have it, everyone. The rework of Wendy's rework. I hope you do like the changes, but I must be honest, she isn't there yet for me. A combination of the health to damage ratio plus time of day would have made things super interesting. Abigail's base damage at night could have been an even 40 before the damage multiplier, and I really don't know why they didn't do that. An expanded relationship with Ghost would have been more than enough to make her actually unique again, because let's face it, we kinda just got back to old Wendy and Abigail here. And by golly, the ecto-herbology elixirs are still utterly terrible. No one is asking the world of them, Clay. People just want Wendy and Abby to at least be able to stand up a little better against some bosses. Not overly great. We don't want her to be powerful. That's the point of Wendy. We just want a little better is all. So you missed the mark on these buffs twice in a row, and that kind of sucks. But again, folks, that is my 2 cents. If you enjoy it, that is all that matters. Thanks for watching, folks. Well wishes to all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.